You give me 60 minutes a day, and I'll show you how to bend the years to your favor. I'm not talking about a fantasy hour, not a pretend hour, but a real one. One where you turn the television off. One where your phone stays in the drawer. One where the noise of the world is silenced and the voice of reason, your own voice, finally has the floor. 1 hour, that's all it takes to change the entire direction of your life. You say, Jim, that sounds a bit much for just an hour. And I say that's the reason most people don't change. Because they underestimate the power of small, consistent disciplines. You see, success is not something you pursue with panic. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. And 1 hour a day, used wisely, turns you into someone success is very interested in. That's the truth. Now let's make something clear. If your day is 24 hours long and you can't carve out just one, then the problem isn't time. The problem is priority. You say you want a better life. You say you want to earn more, live free, feel stronger, but you won't give yourself 1 solid hour to build the foundation. Let me tell you, that's not a goal. That's a wish. And wishes don't build empires. Wishes don't sculpt character. Wishes fade when resistance shows up. Discipline, that's what changes your life. Not emotion, not excitement, not luck. Discipline, and it begins with a single hour, used on purpose. Now, I've studied the lives of millionaires and beggars, presidents and failures, scholars and criminals, and I've noticed something. Every successful person I've ever met, every last one has built a private hour into their day. They use it to learn, to think, to build internal resolve. They don't wait until life clears a space for them. They carve the space out with a chisel. If you're waiting for your schedule to loosen up before you begin, then you'll be waiting the rest of your life. You say, but Jim, I'm tired after work. I understand, but let me ask you something. Are you more tired from working 8 hours for someone else, or from neglecting the 1 hour that belongs to you? That hour isn't for your boss. It isn't for your spouse. It isn't for your job, your friends, or your reputation. It's for you, the person behind the scene, the one the world doesn't see, but life always responds to. You train that person daily, and the world changes how it treats you. I've watched ordinary men turn into leaders because they gave themselves 1 focused hour. I've seen broke students become wealthy because they spent that hour learning what school never taught. I've seen addicts recover, marriages heal, teenagers rise, old men rediscover purpose, all because they decided to own just 1 hour. Not 3, not 10, just 1, every day. Now what do you do with that hour? You build your philosophy, because your philosophy determines your attitude shapes your decisions lead to your habits, and your habits build your life. See how it works? You change your philosophy, you change your future. And that doesn't happen in a hurry. That doesn't happen at the drive-through window. You've got to slow the world down long enough to think, to reflect, to absorb, to correct. And that's what the hour is for. You read, you write, you reflect, you plan, you revise your day, you study character. You rewatch your mistakes. It's the hour of honesty. No hiding, no pretending, no blaming, just you and the truth. You and the notebook, you and the future. You say, that sounds hard. Sure it is. But do you know what's harder? A life built by accident. Says the life that's built without intention. It still gets built, but it's not your blueprint. It's someone else's. And then you wake up at 47 and you don't recognize your own story. That's the price of skipping the hour. And that price is too high. Some of you listening right now, you've been looking for a breakthrough. You've been waiting for that lucky break, that golden chance, that outside shift. And I'm telling you, it doesn't work like that. The biggest breakthrough is internal, and it starts when you reclaim 1 hour. Every single day. Not because you feel like it, but because your future is worth it. I used to be broke. No money, no direction, no schedule, no mentor. And then someone asked me, Jim, what are you doing with your evenings? And I told them, watching television mostly. And they looked at me, and they didn't laugh. They didn't judge. They just said, that's why nothing's changing. And they were right, because the first place change happens is in how you spend your quiet time. I went home that night, turned the TV off, and picked up a book. And that book changed me. Not because it was magic, but because I was finally still enough to listen. An hour, that's all it took to turn the wheel. And once I saw the wheel move, even just a little, I knew it could turn again, and again. And one day it wasn't just a wheel, it was an engine. And that engine was me. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in a frenzy. It happened in the hour. Again and again. You can wait for motivation, or you can build momentum. One is emotional, the other is structural, and structure wins. Give me 1 hour a day, and I'll help you build a structure that fear can't shake, that failure can't erase, that time can't wear down. 1 hour, your hour. Because here's the truth, if you can't own 1 hour, you'll never own a day. And if you can't own a day, the week will collapse. And if your weeks collapse, your year becomes a blur. Then one day you look up and wonder how a decade disappeared. That's the price of neglect. Neglect doesn't cost you all at once. It's a slow erosion, a leaking faucet, a missed appointment, a snoozed alarm. And you hardly feel it until the floor caves in beneath you. But it never starts big. It starts small. One missed hour. I know this because I've been there. I remember the nights when I told myself I'd start tomorrow. I remember the mornings where I hit snooze and called it self-care. And I remember the year where I gained nothing but excuses. It wasn't the economy. It wasn't my job. It wasn't the government. It was the way I treated my own hour. That was the crime. And I was both the victim and the criminal. But once I saw that the door to the future was inside my daily routine, everything changed. Now, some people ask me, Jim, what do I actually do in this hour? Let me tell you, you build 4 things. You build your mind. You build your character. You build your skill. You build your plan. Those are the pillars. You neglect any one of them, and the roof collapses. Let's talk about the mind. Your mind is like a garden, and if you don't plant something valuable, weeds show up on their own. Doubt grows on its own. Fear, regret, bitterness, they're self-seeding. They don't need permission. They just need neglect. But wisdom has to be planted. It has to be watered. It has to be guarded. And that's what the hour is for. You read something with substance, not clickbait, not fluff, something that stretches you. You feed your intellect. You engage your reason. You challenge your assumption. Because if you don't challenge them, the world will. And when that happens, you'll lose, because you'll be operating on a mental OS that was never updated. You'll be running 2025 problems on a 1983 mindset. And that's a setup for failure. So you feed the mind. Then you build character. And I don't mean you pretend to be nice. I mean you confront your weaknesses. In the hour you say, where did I lie today? Where did I cut corners? Where did I lose control? You don't punish yourself. You don't shame yourself. You just observe, with precision, with honesty, because only the honest self can grow. Character is not given at birth. It's not inherited. It's constructed. And the construction happens when nobody's watching. It's how you talk to the waiter. It's how you handle traffic. It's how you treat the hour you owe yourself. Discipline is the root. Honor is the fruit. And both grow in that quiet space. Let me tell you something. Most people you admire didn't get there by accident. They trained while the world slept. They bled in silence. They failed without applause. And that hour, it was their chapel. That's where character forms. Now let's talk skill, because good intentions without skill, that's a recipe for frustration. You can want it badly. You can dream big. But if you can't deliver, the world moves on. So you use part of the hour to practice. You rehearse the presentation. You rewrite the pitch. You study the techniques. You sharpen the blade. Because dull tools make hard work feel impossible. But a sharp skill set makes you dangerous in a good way. And that's what the marketplace pays for. Skill, execution, precision, not desire. Now you might say, but Jim, I'm not good at anything yet. That's fine. But don't lie about it. Say I'm not good yet, and then prove it. Daily. Every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once embarrassed. Every pro had a moment where they considered quitting. But the ones who stayed, they gave that hour to the grind, to the discomfort, to the process, and it paid them back with mastery. Lastly, you build your plan, because strategy beats energy every time. You can work 10 hours a day, but if it's not connected to a vision, you're just circling the drain. So in the hour, you write your goals, you review your calendar, you ask yourself, is today moving me toward the man I want to be? And if it isn't, you adjust, you pivot, you edit the path. Let me give you a Jim Rohn secret. You can't control the wind, but you can set the sail. That's what the hour is, sail setting. because life is full of storms. Disappointment will visit, people will leave, markets will crash. But if your sail is set correctly, you'll still move forward. Not because life is easy, but because your rudder is strong. You don't panic, you pivot. That's planning, and that's power. You still think 1 hour isn't enough. Let me show you what happens when you add it up. 1 hour a day is 7 hours a week. That's 28 hours a month. That's 365 hours a year. Do you know what 365 hours of deliberate development can do? It can write a book. It can build a business. It can transform your marriage. It can reshape your body. It can replace your income. And more than anything, it can rewire your mind. Not because the hour is magic, but because consistency is. The world doesn't reward talent. It rewards traction. And traction is built in the repetition. Most people never see results because they quit at friction. They think resistance means stop, but resistance is just proof that the process is working. Let me repeat that. Resistance is proof the process is working. It's your muscles tearing. It's your brain stretching. It's your comfort zone cracking. Don't run from that. Run through it, because on the other side is the version of you you've been pretending to be. But don't misunderstand me. The hour won't be glamorous. It'll be awkward at first. You'll squirm. You'll check the clock. You'll doubt yourself. You'll get distracted. You'll want to quit. That's expected. Anything worthwhile has a price, and the first payment is discomfort. But if you stay, if you sit through the resistance, if you keep showing up even when it's not perfect, you'll build something called self-trust. And that's rare, because the world is full of people who don't believe their own promises. They say they'll start. They say they'll change. They say they'll commit. But deep down, they don't trust themselves to follow through. You want to be different. Honor the hour. Do what you said you would do, even when nobody's looking, even when nobody claps, even when it's hard. That's power. That's dignity. That's the man people can count on. The woman who can lead. The leader who can rise. Not because they were born special, but because they kept an appointment with their own future. So where do you begin? Right here, right now, today. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need a guru. You don't need a 10-step plan. You need 1 hour of honesty, of study, of planning, of improvement, every single day. That's the secret, and the clock is ticking. And what you do in the next hour, well, that's your declaration. Not to me, not to anyone on the internet, but to yourself. You see, I've learned over the years that the world doesn't change when you make noise. It changes when you keep a quiet promise and then honor it with daily execution. Because anyone can shout their goals. Anyone can dream out loud, but only a rare few show up in silence and work the hour. The hour is where momentum lives, where discipline is sharpened, where failure becomes feedback, not identity. Most people never arrive at their destination, not because they're not capable, but because they keep renegotiating with their weakness. You've done it. I've done it. We all have that little voice that says, today's too heavy. Start fresh next week. You've earned a break. That voice isn't you. It's the ghost of your past habits, dressed up like compassion. But make no mistake, it doesn't serve you. It only delays you. And you don't need more delay, you need acceleration. Let me give you a simple question, one that changed my entire life. If I keep living my days exactly like this, where will I be in 5 years? Ask it honestly. And don't flinch at the answer. If the answer excites you, keep going. If it scares you, change something. If it shames you, forgive yourself and rebuild. But don't lie to yourself, because lying to yourself is the most expensive thing you'll ever do. It costs you time. It costs you confidence. It costs you the life you could have had. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be truthful. That's what the hour teaches you, to stop escaping, to face, to commit to something deeper than convenience. Now let's talk about adversity. Because I guarantee you, the moment you begin guarding this hour, life will test you. Distractions will multiply. Emergencies will rise. People will call. The internet will bait you. Your body will complain. That's normal. Anything of value is resisted. The question isn't, will adversity come? The question is, will I keep the promise when it does? You think champions don't feel like quitting? You think builders don't have doubts? Of course they do, but they've trained their response. They've conditioned their inner world so deeply that even when the storm comes, the foundation doesn't shake. Why? Because the hour trained them. Every day they chose structure over emotion, and that structure became armor. Let me say that again. Structure becomes armor. And in a chaotic world, armor matters. Some of you are still stuck because you think you need motivation. You don't. Motivation is seasonal. Discipline is eternal. Motivation asks, do I feel like it today? Discipline replies, it doesn't matter. You build discipline in the hour, when it's cold, when you're tired, when nobody knows, when nothing seems to be changing. That's where the compound effect begins. Not in leaps, in inches, not in breakthroughs, in repetitions. You want a revolution? Stack 100 quiet hours. Then tell me how your life feels. It won't be recognizable, not because the world changed, but because you did. Let me tell you about a friend of mine. He was broke, divorced, overweight, working a job he hated, stuck in a city he never liked. But every day, 6-7 p.m., he'd give himself 1 hour. In his car, behind a gas station, notebook in lap, book in hand, he called it board meeting with my future. No applause, no audience, just 1 hour. 6 months later, he had a business idea. 9 months in, he'd lost 30 pounds. At the year mark, he moved cities. Year 2, he married again. This time someone who shared his vision. Year 3, he made his first million. Not because he was lucky, but because he built the one thing most people never do. Private mastery. The world will pay you in proportion to the disciplines you master in private. And the hour. That's the forge. Now I want to warn you. The hour will feel lonely. And that's by design. Because transformation doesn't happen in the crowd. It happens in the cave. The cave of silence, of boredom, of resistance, of self-confrontation. That's where the old self dies. That's where the real work begins. Most people avoid that cave their whole lives. They fill it with noise, with entertainment, with company, with food, with scrolling, with comfort. But not you. Not anymore. You've seen too much. You've tasted enough regret to know comfort is overrated. What you want now is fulfillment. And fulfillment is found on the other side of self-discipline. Not pain, discipline. Big difference. Discipline says, I love myself enough to delay gratification. I value myself enough to earn my joy. I respect my future enough to guard my present. That's what the hour teaches. That's why it matters. Some people live their whole lives asking for a miracle, but never realize the miracle is showing up daily for the version of you that doesn't exist yet. The miracle isn't the result. It's the consistency. It's the act of becoming, not just wishing. And if that sounds too simple, good, because truth usually is. You don't need a guru. You don't need a 10-year plan. You don't need the perfect system. You need the hour. That's it. Start with 5 minutes if you have to, then grow it. But read something that makes you think. Write something that makes you feel. Plan something that makes you stretch. Practice something that makes you sharp. And repeat every single day. That's the rhythm of a life worth living. That's the cadence of mastery. That's how transformation becomes inevitable. Look, time is going to pass either way. You can use the hour, or the hour will use you. The day will still come and go, but only one of you will have a new seed planted, a new edge gained, a new wall knocked down. The difference, decision. Nobody else will make it for you. Nobody's coming to claim the hour on your behalf. Nobody's forcing you to read, to plan, to reflect. That's your job, and it's the most important job you'll ever have, because the life you build externally will always mirror the one you've built internally. So start building. You don't need perfect. You need consistent. You don't need more time. You need more intention. You don't need motivation. You need a reason. Find your reason and guard the hour like your life depends on it. Because it does. Now before I go, Let me leave you with this. If you give me 1 year, 1 hour a day for 1 year, I promise you won't recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror. Not because the world finally changed, but because you finally changed how you show up for it. Start today. Keep the promise. Make the hour count. That's how you change your life. 1 hour at a time. Short pause. That's how I changed mine.